Good evening, everybody. This is Dr. Rao coming on my Calm the Mind with Dr. Rao in the room. Okay, so today is the 33rd day. Today is the 33rd day. Welcome to everybody who is here and who is going to join me in a few minutes. Uh, I hope you are all having a good day. I had a good day. I was writing another book which I started. This is about my own personal experience of uh, my own journey to recovery from my serious stroke that I had in 2014. And that's coming along pretty nice. I was really excited about how many things I was able to recollect and then put it there for the use of people who may have such kind of stroke thing and all that, then they can use it as an example to recover well, right? So that's the intention. Um, about calming the mind plays a major part in that because if you react to some illness with negativity, like we saw in the COVID when that happened, a lot of people really uh, suffered anxiety and really a cytokine syndrome that happened, cytokine syndrome that happened, which really helped the immunity to go down. And in the process, people were really not able to recover very well. So that's everybody knows that, right? But uh, if you don't have the experience with your own reactions and how to keep your mind equanimous at the time, it's not going to work for you when the event has happened. So that's why training our mind not to go to extremes is very important on a daily basis. Hopefully, people will take upon this if they are not doing it already and are able to really cultivate that habit of being equanimous uh, in the presence of adverse situations or good situation. Both ways you want to be equal. This is what was taught in that great book Bhagavad Gita. They talk about being uh, really equal while you are having a good result or bad result, but keeping the mind really keeping it equal. That's a quality that they promote and that the quality that they advise. Don't go too far up in the sky when you have something nice happen to you, or let it get to your head. That's what they say right here, right? Or go in the dumps and depressed when you really have something bad happen to you, or so-called bad. So that kind of equanimous nature is very much needed, and the calming the mind is part of that, right? So I hope you understood what I was talking about. As I was telling people that this is important in this age when there are so many stimuli can activate our mind and take us in on a journey of a real high, right, in thought or immersed in thought, deep in thought, whatever it is. So if you do that continuously, and you will be really feeding the beast, like the thoughts become much more easier to get activated, much more easier to form a network, much more easier to revive the memories and all that, right? Especially emotionally hurts, emotional regrets or angers, and all those things are not really good for us, right? So you want to be equanimous in life events, either good or bad. You want to be stationed in your real awareness self so that your thought would come reacting to something that is happening at work or at home too. So lots of times people don't mean to say what they have to say. Sometimes it is so impulsive, so unconscious. They may say something they regret later on. But this kind of practice every day will really help you to control those reactions. I think Voodoo is here. I will see whether she wants to come up. So, hi, Voodoo. I am doing good. You are cutting though. Your reception, maybe.
Let me put my headphones.
Yeah. So I was just telling them how when I was sick, this kind of calmness of mind and being equanimous really helped me.
Yeah.
Like I was using this example in COVID pandemic. I did not get the COVID, but then I saw a lot of patients with COVID. They were naturally very anxious, very tense, and really imagined the worst, even though a lot of them fought off the COVID, right? At the time, we didn't have any medications, we didn't have any vaccines and all that, right? So people had this tremendous fear. If you get the COVID, you're going to die. That was the conclusion. But it is not true. 80% of the young people recovered from the COVID, but people who have underlying diseases, poor immunity, they kind of succumbed easily that. But then everybody with the fear and anxiety that they generated, they produce what's called cytokine syndrome, right? A tremendous immune.
Yes.
You remember that? That's what happened. Yeah. So that's what I'm talking about. So our
like cytokine storm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Had COVID. Yes.
Yeah. So we have seen that, and we kind of try to assure people. And I was working on the COVID committees on the clubs, this clubhouse. So I was working with people who are in other countries for this kind of suggestions, and also giving them the accurate information from the reputed medical sources, which I was always looking as a doctor before, anyway. So I was more interested in this because I was following epidemics since 1980s. Each epidemic, HIV, I came into the country when the HIV just coming up, and I was in New York when the HIV is in full swing. So I saw patients like 6 o'clock in the evening in the emergency room. By 9 o'clock, they died. So the tremendous PCP pneumonia and all that, right? So I have been through that, but then I was bothered by the epidemics, and then I began to follow them and see the history of it. And I studied the 1919's influenza pandemic, and later on cholera, so many things. It's a fascinating history how scientists fought with these vaccines and all that, right? So I was very interested in that. And then one of my favorite topics was antibiotic resistance. I was preaching people don't use antibiotics unnecessarily until you are sure it is really bacterial. And I was putting posters in my clinic educating the patients what is a viral, what is a bacterial infection, how can you identify at home. And they were on my neck every time they come with a viral infection of the kid. They want me to go antibiotics, and I was trying to resist that, because I want to not to create more of bacterial resistance. You know what I mean? Right? So that was important. Is a good citizen behavior as a physician. Don't dish out antibiotics just because they're asking you. Sometimes they kind of insist on it. Then what I did was, okay, I will give you a paper script, but don't use it unless the kid develops this. And I used to tell them how you can detect the viral infection is turning into super-red bacterial infection coming into the body. And that was happy for them because at least they have something in their hand. But it took a long time to educate these patients that all infections don't need antibiotics. And on the other hand, they're harmful to your body, to the environment, and all that. So that was what I was talking about, calming the mind and looking at things in clear perspective really helps us in so many ways. So people know it that it's better to be calm, but then sometimes, oh, it's my nature. This is what I am. I get angry easily. No, this is all learned behavior. Once you understand that, then you can have other habits which can help you balance. What do you think, Odu? What I said about it?
Um, yes, I agree with you.
Yeah. So that's why we got to put some effort into. See, I was writing this book, right? And in one of the chapter, I described how my mental status was when I was diagnosed this stroke and I developed left hemiplegia. I was taken to the hospital right away, so I got the TPA and all that. But then the hemiplegia progressed where I could not even get up and stand and walk, right? So I had to go to the rehab. But within a month, I got recovery and I came back to the clinic to see my patients. So that looks crazy, but then there are so many things involved because I diagnosed so many thousands of stroke patients. I know the role of anticoagulation, the know about timely coming to the hospital, and also in recovery, intense therapy. That's what I used to do with my patients. I used to make them work hard to recover faster, you know, and I used to give special instructions to the therapist how they should be working on him, how intensely. They were going by the half an hour that the insurance company allows. Then I put the patients on that, so they were able to get the ball, get something that make him walk or something like that. So that's why one of the things I used there was how can you be in the present you know so yeah, you got the diagnosis, you don't want to go bonkers on that long practice of being in the present really helped me at that time. So I just was writing about that in the book, and it will come out. I'll release it very soon, and people will see that. The idea is I don't really recall all that. Is kind of a dream like it happened, right? But then what I recall is how I really recovered very quickly and how I returned to the doctor function very quickly. Within a month, I just came back, you know.
Mm, okay. Wow. You were so you had. Did you say you had a
Yeah,
stroke?
yeah. Left hemiplegia, you know,
Goodness.
dense paralysis, right, on the left side.
Oh, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's
Did you
crazy.
did
It is
you lose did you lose some of your vision?
not the vision, speech. Speech was lost.
So you have you had some aphasia, but you don't have. Doesn't sound like you have any residual.
No, that's why I'm saying you got to work very hard on the recovery with the therapy very early. See, that's where doctors and patients may miss it because they don't start the therapy as soon as possible. I used to start my patients on the first day itself. Not maybe major, but at least a family member who is next to them. I ask them to do passive range of motions. Just take the hand, he cannot move it, then you move it like that. So I was very aggressive on that part of it because now, say, first part is just to diagnose accurately, then do the correct treatment. And after that, once I established where the lesion is, what the thing is, see, one of the things in India was we were able to locate the stroke lesion without any CAT scan. We were taught like that. Later, at the end of my medical education, we got some of these CAT scans, but then we were not using, they are very expensive for them. So our teachers taught us how can you do history, physical exam, and how the whole lesion has, the whole stroke, the deficit has evolved. Based on that, we used to diagnose whether the bleeding or thrombosis or embolic thing, and then where exactly it would be. It would be so accurate. We used to diagnose, oh, this is in the midriff, this is in the spinal column, this is in the all those things we used to do, even the sensory deficit. So that was a great art of neurological examination and diagnosis. I wish they have not lost it. With all the scans come, people is much easier to just say that. yeah, but I never want to lose that skill. So I was taking the scans for sure right away, but also not to lose my thing. I used to examine the patient, establish the lesion on my own. So that kind of awareness really helped me that okay, these lesions have to have this much of therapy and all that. So I implemented the same principle on me, and they would not give me enough therapy, right? So I used to, on the first week itself, I was not able to stand and stand on both legs, right? The left leg is giving away. Then I made them put a gurney around me and put me on the treadmill so that I can walk. It is crazy, really. But then they did because I'm the physician, so they know me in the same hospital. So they kind of listened to me, and also I was giving the lectures about how to deep breathe, how to be in the present, and how to not to allow the despondency come in, be positive, all that. And all the therapists, they started doing the deep breathing exercise for themselves and for their own patients too. So it was kind of fun in a way because the therapists who were supposed to make me do therapy, they came and became my students and listened. Okay, you tell us whatever you want us to do, we will do it. Even the speech therapist and even the one with neuro linguistic models, right, where we work on our own inner balance and all that. That I really knew about that. So we talked about that too. So it was now recollecting it, it looks fun. It's like a dream, but at the time, it needed my focus.
Yes, just a little bit about me. Before I became a nurse practitioner, I was a neuro trauma ICU nurse. So
Yeah,
I received a lot of traumatic brain injuries, a lot of stroke patients.
yeah.
It was mostly I had both ischemic and I had hemorrhagic stroke. So I had both.
Yeah, that's why we kind of in the history we kind of ask deep questions like, was this abrupt or did it evolve, or was it more like a headache or what symptoms, rupture of the aneurysm or hemorrhagic stroke? Also any embolic evidence, anything like obesity or stasis venous in the legs, and all the things we spend so much time on the history, and then examining the higher intellectual functions, then motor system, sensory system, then the gait, then all those functions we used to evaluate and test them too. I think that is a very good way to really assess the patient right away before you wait for the CAT scan and all that. So you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
We emulate you and we get you in physical therapy as soon as possible and speech therapy right away. We don't wait.
Yeah, exactly. That is what I'm talking about. I always a big advocate of that.
Yeah.
And the other thing happened was I write it in the book. There was I was in the rehab, right? And then everybody used to come and visit me, my wife and my kids and all that. But I used to send them away after dinner, or because I want them to not to get tired out and just sleep, right? And then luckily we are close to the hospital, so they were able to go home and sleep there. And then I told them, "Don't worry, I'll get up and walk. I will do." They thought I was crazy. They all thought I was crazy. It was weird. How can he call? They were all depressed. But then everybody who came to talk to me, my friends and everybody, I kind of raised their spirits. So I was never taken down. So this lady, this young nurse, she used to come to me after she done her rounds and taking care of patients and all, right? She was very young, and then she used to sit down with me, and then we used to engage in a very deep philosophical talks, right? And she was interested in that, and I was obviously in that, right? So before I go to bed, I was always going to the deep philosophy which I learned, which I understood. I used to explain to her, I think that also played a big role because after that I used to sleep very well. So my mind is on the understanding the truth, understanding the deeper questions of life, rather than worrying about what is going to happen to my future, what is going to happen to my clinic, what all that. So I wrote about that too. I think that that was very helpful for me in my recovery.
That's good. I'm glad you found a way.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you documented what helped, what was best, what helped you best.
Yeah, that is what I was focusing on this afternoon. 3, 4 sections I revised. I went, oh, this happened, this happened, this happened. Then I put them there. In ICU, for example, I was laying in the ICU after they gave the TPA, right? And then I was right away started on what's called micro yoga, you know. And second thing is this deep breathing. Okay. And the third thing is uh, I was watching whether I'm in the present or my mind is going into the past or the future. You know, that also helped me. These three things helped me right from the start. Mm. I wrote about them too in detail. Say micro yoga is where you take each joint and then do what is possible. Okay, just if you can move the toes, just move them, but several times, right? So whatever function that was there, I kind of enhanced it just by visualization and doing it. As I do it, and the function returned back much because I knew about the muscle and neuro coordination, how you recover individual muscles and all that. So that micro yoga helped me, I think, a lot. And of course, deep breathing. Obviously, you are in the present and all that. That also helped me too. So those three also I wrote about quite a bit. Anyway, what I'm talking about is calming the mind helps us in adversarial situations where we will not generate stress hormones, one thing. We will not waste our energy on agitated thought or worry thought or depressive thought. And we can think clearly so that we can focus on the solution rather than being worried about them, right? So that kind of thing. So um, I think there are a couple of guests here. Anybody wants to come up, please come up. So we're just talking about calming the mind and presence of mind, how the our mind situation can help us to recover from serious situations. I was using my own example why I did was, so that came up because I was writing that book and Bodo was here. I was telling her about it. So tell me, Bodo, what is going on with you?
Well, Dr. Rao, can you hear me still? Or no?
Yeah.
Is it still?
Oh, yeah. This is much better. Yeah.
So yesterday I did my final oral defense for my doctorate, and I went well, and they congratulated me and welcomed me as a colleague.
Wonderful. Congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's
it was a lot of tears.
Yeah, that's good because it's all a question of being in that moment and really focusing on what is that we are here to do. That will actually anchors your mind to the present moment so that you don't have to allow you to go away from that. What you are doing here, I'm answering these questions. Just imagine those are all not really you're threatening adversarial, but they are there to have a party with you. Like, that kind of attitude helps us. And then stay there and then deal with the question. And that itself will, because you already know the answers, you're already prepared. So it will be being in the present. I'm glad. I was sure that you will do well anyway. That day when you talked to me. Yeah.
Even I wasn't sure. I appreciate that.
Yeah. But I think I told you just be in the present, right? That's the one that helps.
I did a lot of meditation, a lot of breathing.
Yeah.
A lot of self-affirmations. Yeah. And I've spent the whole day.
Yeah. Did you do the Korsakoff breathing, which I mentioned to you?
Yes. Yes. I saw the video where you have to touch my head. It's like, I think nose. Yeah. And it was It was interesting.
Yeah, there is an element there where the abdominal wall contracts deeply into within ourselves. Then that is the one which really quenches the hormones that are producing the anxiety, and that's why it's a very effective way. Three breaths like that, I teach people who come to me with the performance anxiety. They call it the executives, and then usually they let their mind go bonkers, and that's the one they have to understand and not to do that, then they'll be okay, So the deep breathing helps for that also.
Deep breathing has helped me when I'm having problems with my patients or when I'm having a coworker problems. Deep breathing actually helps reset me, gives me a good pause, and allows me to think before I.
Yeah, it's a very poorly used physiological phenomena that is under our control. You can be unconscious about breathing, but you can be conscious too. So that's what I teach people. Actually, there is a iPad tool I kind of suggest sometimes to the patients. Breathe to relax. That is the title of that app. What it does is it has got beautiful scenery and also this water fall coming onto front. But then there are two pistons like in the front. When you deep breathe, one piston goes up, right? And then you can measure yourself how long it can go, how much height it can go. And then as you breathe out, the piston comes down. And it shows you in numbers of 1 to 20, something like that. So it reinforces you when you do 10, and the next time you kind of make an effort to go to 15, that becomes a biofeedback thing for you. And then it helps you, yeah, I can do better. And then because of the deep breathing, the slowness and the deliberateness, you feel relaxed because you are not thinking rapidly anymore. So that's why I gave them that app so that they can put it in front. I made them do it in the clinic, sometimes in groups, but then usually they can get download it, and then they were able to do it. And that helped a lot of my asthma and a lot of my COPD patients and smokers and anxiety patients and some of the obese patients. They were also helped by that too. So I worked on that app quite a bit with patients, and then they found that very useful because right in front of them there's the instructor like they couldn't do them. So if anybody wants to take the suggestion, I think you will be happy that you did that. you know so one of the points I was making there, Urdu, in my book about my recovery, it's a combination of modern medicine plus some wisdom hacks from ancient times, right? So one of the things I find as a physician is we are losing a lot of this ancient had a relation with nature and had gained a lot of lessons from them. And so they were using sunshine, the mobility, climbing hills, walking, and also really be in tune with whatever is happening in the nature. Thereby, they cultivated mindfulness very well. Those kind of things we have to, because we are kind of created an artificial world in our head here, and then we get lost in that. But they are more like an instinctive, intuitive, and then here and now attitude. That kind of thing I employed in my life too. So there are so many things that they had a relationship with the nature, with rain or trees or flowers or animals and all that. That was very healthy, not only for us but then for the planet too. We call that. You heard about nature bathing, forest bathing. Yeah, that's it. Forest bathing. That's something of a stress reducing tactic that I use. Especially the people who are all in the office and don't want to get out of their screens, and all day they spend, right. But in my clinic, I designed it. I built it my on my own, so I could do what I wanted to do. So I saw clinics in California. They are based on health principles, good health principle, where each room has a window, and then all the rooms are painted half white, so that light blue, light green, like that. I painted all my rooms, and that was very pleasing for patients when they came, and the healing effect was there. It was all, and then dimensions and everything were given according to standards. So I followed that way, and then I constructed my clinic like that. So those things really help too. Andrew Weil, he's one of the surgeons that wrote a lot about this holistic health. He talked about this color in the clinic, and the light that is coming through the windows, and light music. He was doing surgery while the light music is going on, which kept them very relaxed. And that is really true. I also had these speakers around the clinic, and then we were kind of very. If you want to listen, you can listen. If you don't want to, you may not appreciate it. But it was very light, and then we kind of seasonal music, and sometimes there's instrumental music we played, because the decibel level, according to what you do, is 518 or something. That is to get a very healing effect at your metabolic level. You know, what do you say about that, Odu? Have you heard about that?
Can you just? I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? Because I was running around for a
Yeah,
second.
it's the music and the music capacity to heal us. So the kind of wellness principles were there implemented in my clinic, and later on we had too many patients, so we were opening another clinic at the other corner of the town. But that was like in my own lawyer's thing, right? So these lawyers rented a space for me, but that was so dingy and dark. My patient don't want to come there because my new clinic I built up is colorful. Hi, Sanya.
Hi, Dr. Ram.
How are you?
Great.
Yeah,
Taking a pause on traffic.
Yeah, I was talking to Udo. I was telling her that I began to write my new book. This is about my own experience of a recovery from the stroke, and I wrote I think 6 chapters. I wrote. Four more are there. I'll do them. So I was discussing some of the points that I recalled, how I recovered, and all that. So she's a nurse practitioner, so she understands. She is also in the stroke unit. So I didn't know that, but I was just telling her. But and she can understand how that is. That's crazy the way I recovered. you know.
Yeah. I love when you said that, in terms of keeping your mind right in the present, not in the past. Not share that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because I my sister just had, of course, a stroke, and I can understand.
Yeah.
And I, of course, after talking to yourself, right?
Yeah.
I was like, you got to decide, right? This happened to you. You can't go back to the past. You can't, you have to do it, what you can in the present, right? Whatever you can, but that you keep active and make sure that it's beyond your, that we keep that up, right? And, in 6 months, she's walking around and she's moving around almost normal.
Wonderful. Right? Wonderful. Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah, this is very important. Even the COVID, we were talking about cytokine storm that people went into, because they had a very negative approach to the COVID. They were too fearful. We can sympathize with them, but is that wise? That is the one that we question. And then I counseled so many people who had the initial diagnosis of the COVID, and they were desperate and they were really crying and all that, right? Then when I talked to them and told them this is an infection, you got to be immunologically and physically healthy, so that so you don't contribute to your own ill health by secreting all this stress hormone. That helped them to really relax a little bit. And then this deep breathing I taught them, that helped them too. So we worked very hard on the clubhouse. I was the member of a big club and all that. We raised a lot of money. The first meeting we had, I was the only physician there. As a big meeting, Kunal Sood, I think he was doing that, So he asked, "Oh, Dr. Rao, you're the only physician. You have to tell us what is this about." First time they heard about it. But I already knew about it ahead of them because I was following this in a scientific spirit. Because all what is the scientific community thinking? Actually, they predicted this is going to go in the first part of January. And then I knew about it at the time. But then the cases to spread. What happened was there used to be an organization called Prevent. That is the name of that. That was a government federal wing and then associated with CDC. So their job was to really see when a case has emerged or a breakdown, right? They call it in a far village in Africa, or Asia, or South America, or America, wherever, right, around the world. If they break out, they immediately go and send a team there to really quarantine that place. That's how they were able to limit so many pandemics, right, in the past. That happened. So some of are pretty deadly ones, right? But then after Obama's administration, this new coming administrator felt that it was not doing any purpose, no advantage coming out of it. They were not seeing what silently is being done. Okay, and then they removed that prevent. And right after that, this happened, and then they informed this president how serious it is, and he chose not to tell people how serious it was. So all the all those things you see in the private talks and some of the YouTube videos that some of the scientists from different different institutions talk about, right? So it's unfortunate that they removed that. That government wing was funded just for this purpose. Their actual work begins when somebody reports that there's a breakdown of this potential epidemic, and then going into pandemic, right? But these people felt that she's not doing any job, and they canceled it. And then I don't know if it is a coincidence or it just happened like that too. Um, so that's a part about COVID is people are really, especially after the first wave has subsided, people began to get some news, either good or bad or accurate, not accurate. Many people kind of come to the conclusion, if you get that, you're right, you're going to die. So that was the fear killed a lot of people, because that initiated the cytokine storm. And then there were other things too. They were intubated early, and the obese people who have this bypass surgery or the obesity, they also had problems. So we come to know the reasons of that later on. One of my colleagues in Canada, she wrote a beautiful paper on that. The patients who undergo bariatric surgery and what's the effect of that on this virus and all that. So what is going on with you, Sanya? How are you doing?
Good. We had a lot of traffic, so I'm just pulling over and just let it flow.
Okay.
Or just let it stand still, but I'm in the shade.
Okay. Is it hot out there?
Today the sun came out, so it's warm. It's not hot. It's warm.
Yeah, for us also it is quite sunny and nice. In the morning when I was doing, it's already sunny at that early hour. So I kind of opened the windows and then did in the presence of sunlight and all that. That was nice. Last night, Carlos was here. He's also a student of mine. So he was. We had a very extensive discussion last night. Like many people came, and it was like a 2.5 hours, I think, we talked about.
Yeah, that's good.
I went pretty deep. I don't know how much they understood or what, but
Of course, Dr. Rao, you have to go.
yeah, I don't know how it
I haven't met
happens.
Carlos yet.
Yeah,
Maybe I did.
I don't know how it happens, but then, well, if they ask me, only I'm going. Otherwise, I'm kind of keeping it low as much as possible. So uh, anyway, we are again presenting this being calm and present with the help of the deep breath. That is something I'm recommending people to do early in the morning, first thing, and establish yourself in the presence, and then do everything with that. And then in the night, just before you go to bed, do this calming exercise. Basically, I talked last night about vacating the mind, at length. So this helps you even to have vacation in your mind every day, like. So that's what I was introduced to by J. Krishnamurti. In a talk, he talked about vacate the mind, then you'll have vacation wherever you are. You know, so doesn't mean that when you're doing some work you don't think. You think better, you think deeper, you think clear, right? But then after that is done, don't allow the mind to stay in that experience. He famously said about this. Suppose you go to a hill, he saw one single tree on the meadow, right? This is England, I think. Beautiful scenery, beautiful green pastures, and then one tree only, and that's standing there. And when you look at it with the horizon, looking, you can see how majestic that is. But then he said, just see it, enjoy it, be with it, experience, and afterwards, don't let the impression or whatever thing that you feel about it be clouded by thoughts of comparing this to your other experience, or putting ahead of it. I want to hold on to this. The meaning is, whatever you do in life, experience it and then leave it alone. What the thought does, it comes right after the experiential part is done. That's where you have to be careful.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Because
This is why I'm always with one patient. That's it. After the patient is done, next patient, that's it. But with the patient, at least we have to follow something. That's all okay. But it is unnecessarily allowing the mind to go wander. That's the one I'm telling people not to do that. It's not I'm asking them to be dumb or completely stupid or anything like that. No thought. No, understand where is the role of thought. Use it. Where does it end, and where do you allow it to continue? That's the problem.
Yeah, I think I didn't understand, in terms of I think as long as we take our opinions out of everything, right?
Yeah.
Then, the way I see it now, I didn't before, right? Because, now that I don't have like a lot of thoughts cluttering my mind,
Good.
I have to retrieve it to be able to like, think about things.
That's what I would like to see, Asanya, because you will use your thought when you're doing the work and all that, right? But after a while, that also becomes a part of this. That's all okay. But then, if you are constantly in your head, that's what I'm talking about. Don't do that. Then you can't be joyful. You can't enjoy things. You can't experience things, right? So, but then this modern life has made a lot of people live in their head. There was a slide I put the other day. Carlos was saying, "Oh, somebody put it." I said, I put the post and he liked it. He sent me, "Oh, this is wonderful." And now he didn't remember it. Who put it? I said, "You even told me that was very nice." The slide is very simple. One man is dragging the cart, right? and his whole head is so big, like equal to the size of the cart, is on the cart. And he's pushing it with his both legs. That means you making your head so heavy with information, and that becomes your big burden.
Yeah, I finally understand that part, because we think when I go and watch the sunset, which I
Yeah.
do as much when the sun comes up.
Yeah.
But I realize that it is my thoughts that's saying, okay, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm missing out when I'm saying that, right?
Yeah.
As the
experience. Don't think. Experience that experience. That's it. That's a thing. A lot of people lost this art of experiencing simple things because they are always thinking ahead or thinking in the past or comparing it. So just one thing they say is just shut up and then experience the sun. And then it will be easy for you to really come out refreshed because you have experienced something which is very, very valid for you.
Yeah.
There is a book, Sanya, by Krishnamurti. It's called Ending of Time. Time is ending. Time equals the thought, right? The thought is in time. Thought is always in the time, either in the past or in the future, right? But actual here and now is not in that. Okay, so that's why you establish yourself in the presence, and then do everything. You remember in the morning I say, be here and now, and carry this presence, not like it's a thing, but the state of being in the present is something that you experience, and then you kind of go with it. Whatever you do, actually, that is a healthier thing, not to react also, because something happens, you take a little gap between what you saw, what you heard, to what you react with. If you can create a slight gap, you made a lot of progress. But usually the mind reacts, and immediately, suppose somebody comes to you, Sonia, and then says something nasty, and immediately your reaction comes, and you think, oh, this is not justified, he did this. But then what he did was outside, what you felt is inside. Right? So the more you are aware of it, the less reaction you have, and the more time from the time they said it, and from the time to the time that you react increases. In the beginning, even if you have a couple of seconds, that's good enough. So I test these things when I go out in the traffic and everywhere. A lot of people do, crazy things, right? In traffic or whatever. Some people say, "Oh, see, and are you blind?" or something like that. If you hear somebody make some mistake, my kids jump and say, "Oh, look at nasty fellow! He's saying something to them," and like that. But I'll say that is the occasion. That's a lab for you to test yourself as to how reactive you are or responsive you are.
Yeah, I just downloaded the book. I had Audible, right?
Yeah. That's a very. What happened to the Patanjali Yoga Sutras? Have you read that?
I'm still on it. I didn't read the whole thing yet, but slowly.
I am going to do special exposition of Patanjali Yoga Sutras. That will be like a week-long thing. I think you should attend to that. Okay. I think that's not something you read and understand, Sonia. That's something. Even though it's only the whole Patanjali book fits on the 192 sutras, aphorisms, they fit on one single page. But then each aphorism is loaded with so much wisdom. People read after 20, 30 years before they have a hang of what it is. But you know what? Once you get the hang of it, then it becomes, why did I find it so difficult to begin with? That's the funny part about it. All these spiritual treatises, or either it is Chinese or Egyptian or Indian or anything like that, they're pretty deep, pretty brief, concise. But then when you expand it, the deeper your understanding, the more you can expand it. That's why sometimes people say, "Oh, you tell things very, very long and all," but then they need that long explanation sometimes. Maybe you are not ready to take it. That's why you can have, you can,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's all of those, like what you said, right? Experience. This, yeah. I didn't, now that I am aware of that part,
yeah,
I think, and it is quite flat in terms of the direct translation.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you? It's your mind to not only experience but to interpret as well, right?
Yeah. And the other problem is this Sanskrit text, or like a Latin text or French text, anything original language. If you know the intricacies and all, and then Sanskrit is supposed to be one of the toughest languages, and then very complete with each decibel level and all that. So that is a big problem, because a lot of people interpreted them half truths or what they understood and all that. So it's not really complete accurate thing you get when you just read them. So there are people made commentaries and all of that. But then with your life experience, when you really experience what they're talking about, then that stays with you. You see?
I will finish that.
That's why I found in the beginning when I
have to come back, but
it's
first time reading doesn't,
yeah.
It's a small book. I mean, it's like tiny pamphlet. Right?
Yeah, I mean, you can read through the book just like a novel, but you won't make any sense. And also, you see, this is the key point. Are you absorbing information, or are you able to have insight of some universal truth when that is presented in this wisdom books? That's where how you are inside depends. Otherwise, see, that's the problem. All the people want to learn from the books. They want to gather some information and get the conclusion of it, and then carry that information and think that will help them. No, you have to have an experience of insight into this, and then hang on to that insight. Allow that insight to apply in your life.
As I was reading, let's say, the first page for several times.
Yeah.
And each time I come in, it's different,
Yeah.
Because, I think maybe because, what you accumulated that day, right?
No, I told you to go ahead and purchase this, because at least if it is there, you look at it. If it's not there, then you look at a newspaper more often, probably. But then the more you are looking at it, there will be a time when they say, your mind start to work. What is this? Or how can I understand this? Who can teach me about this and all that? It's not them teaching you. It's what I said about don't accumulate information, but have an insight. Insight also you don't accumulate. You got to have that insight, so that, like for example, you are looking at the trees, right? You are looking at the trees, and then you see the tree is going from one side to other side because of the wind, but it doesn't break, it comes back to center. Okay, that itself, if you look at it, you will say, oh, the tree is kind of moving this way, kind of having a wave like thing and all that. But then if you say, well, the tree is tall, see how many obstacles it is facing in the weather, and still trying to stand still, right? At the end of it, it kind of takes all the abuse and then stands still, right? Okay, so that means it is resilient, right? So you are wavered by your thoughts that way and this way, and you have reactions, then you become weak. But if you are resilient to those things by really not resistance in the sense, not fighting them, but then just take it under your wing, like, and then march with the whatever that experience taught you. Like, for example, your financially, you made mistakes, which I kind of gave a lot of my money anyway, So if you do that, then later on, if you say, I don't have the money, who is responsible? And if you don't learn from that, then how can you do the not do the same thing again? Okay, so you got an insight into that experience, and that has become your wisdom, and that you are allowing it to function in your life. All these steps people don't do if they cram themselves with a lot of information. You see, that is what is happening. Over information, all right. Just because you have that book doesn't mean anything, but you have to work at it within yourself, not taking anybody's words and that. But then, if somebody says something, then you got to go and uh, see. They said a very nice thing. I always tell my sister and my wife, because they you know sometimes I talk to them about these things, and they try to get this and they don't get them right. So uh, there is in Sanskrit three steps they talk about. One is first listening. Listen without your mind moving with conclusions or anything. Complete listening, right? Second thing is, once you listened, in fact, then you got to do your own inner investigation, in the sense you question it, you doubt it, you ask, is this just real just because I respect this man? And that, no, you got to go and investigate the truth for yourself. And out of that investigation, you will find out whether it is true or not, because you have to subject it to all sorts of things, right? And then once you really come to the conclusion in your own mind that this is reasonable, this is logical, this is what I think is correct, and all that, then the third step is you got to allow the truth operational in your life. Otherwise, no point of listening or no point of investigation. So, serious people are those who go for the universal truths, right? And then they kind of don't want to stop or compromise, or that's where the conditioning stops people. People accept things too easily. They don't stay with a question for some time. Krishnamurti once said, doubt it, question it. When you question it, stay with the question for a week. Don't answer quick answer. Oh, this is not like a physical science, right? Like a equation in the chemistry is equal. We can study it, and immediately we can deduce that this is correct and all that, right? Because there is a subject, there is something to learn about. But this is like a inquiry into your self knowledge, right? So that kind of thing doesn't come to because you are agreeing with somebody, right? So you have to really, existential issues are like that, that you don't want to have a quick answer from anybody. It has to come from your own deep investigation and all. That is, people are not capable of doing it because they don't want to spend that much time or some effort on that. But then the people whose minds is calm and quiet, who want to go into one subject at depth, then they will be able to really go into the depths by themselves and have the tenacity to absorb new findings. Otherwise, I have seen so many people self-declaring, "I'm a deep thinker," or I could do this and all that. That itself shows how shallow that deep thinking is, because the deep thinker is thinking, I'm the really deep person." But the all thinking, by definition, is not deep. All thinking is kind of superficial thing. There is a depth beyond thinking for the human. So,
as you were talking about that, I appreciate the things that we repeat during meditation, which is like, I'm not this body and I'm not just mind. And that kind of like when I take that deep breath, this is what I go into, right? In terms of like so that way I know that this is in a sense not me, right? So then I can make conscious decisions on what to do next, right? So this is kind of like been my practice, and just like wiping out everything, like pretty much, and just look at fresh eyes, right?
It does. It does.
Yeah, it's really hard for me initially because I was like what you're saying, all of those things, rejecting, all of those things because I thought, okay, me, but once you wipe all of those out, and if you're not the mind and you're not the body, then who are you?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. That is what it is you don't seek an answer, you go and find it. Then what happens is you say, okay, I am this energy. You kind of sense it and feel it. Then it's not that you are losing your mind or you're losing your body, but you are not identified with them because they are going to end anyway, But then even them, they are there. What is this I sense I have? They're not just thoughts. I feel like I am, and that I am. I am that I am. That is the one, Christian saying also that I am that I am. But people usually end up identifying with their ego or personality or personhood or the body and mind. That is where the limitation comes, right? Immediately, you feel I'm this body, and you have the body. Your body is your property, but you are not just the body. See, there is what is called Chit Jada Grandhi in Sanskrit. Chit is that awareness, that tejas, that is bright light that we all have when we are alive. Okay, you can see the dead body, that light is gone. Okay, but when you are alive, in your eyes, you can see it. In the way you talk, you can see it. We can feel the energy in your tone and all that. That light, that is us. That is the I sense. How do you get to that if you don't identify what you are not? What you are not is this chit jada grandhi means jada is the inert body. Without light, that body is inert, right? Jada is that, and chit is this conscious light I was talking about. And grandhi is something that ties these two. What is that? That is our conscious thought. The thought can tie up your conscious being to the inert body. Most of the people think that inert body is them, right? So once you have the consciousness really wakened up, and then you see, I'm not this body, I'm not this thoughts, which is the mind, but I am having thoughts, I am having this body. Then we are established in that mind is peaceful and happy. Otherwise, it comes up and say, hey, here I am, identify with me. That's what yeah.
That is I thought that was really like the things that, that really touched me, right? Because having not only, like we talk about it all the time, but it's not sinking in for me, right?
I live it, Zanya. That's why it comes out of me all the time. I don't stay in the mind or the body, I'm in that being, right? So when I talk to the being, people say, oh, he just talks about being. But then that is where I am, So at the night time also I sleep in that. And so that's why I talked about that too. How do you have optimal sleep? How do you have optimal fulfillment? These are all I talked about. But again, you see, it's not the information, but is that the living truth for you or not? Then you will say, okay, like you said about sunset, when you go and see, to empty all the thoughts and then just be with the sun, how beautiful it is. Don't you have to adject, don't you have to describe, don't you have to compare anything, just stay with it. And then you are in one with the nature, like one with the being, right? That is the level where we are all one. But then if you are allowing your mind come in and say all sorts of things, you are never in touch with yourself. See what I'm saying? Because you have understood that experience, you lived it, that is very real to you. I don't have to describe that to you. You are experiencing the sunset. That is real to you. Right? Like that, these deeper questions staying in the being will come to you when you are experiencing that and stay there. Then all these other things will be there, but they don't dominate you. So don't you think I'm a thinking person? I can use the thought to communicate. I use it to tell you, okay, this is Zanya. But then when in my own experience of my real self, there's no thought, just intuitive feeling realization. That realization doesn't happen, then you are caught in this limited body, limited mind. And then they make a lot of noise with that. And that limitation is only a problem for them, right? Not for anybody else. There's a lot in this, but it's a real blessing to be there, because that itself is the real peace. That itself real happiness. And if you have that perspective, that Sanya has that, I see you through that perspective, right? I don't see the body, the beauty, or whatever. I should see the mind, thoughts, and all of that. What I see is in you. The same thing happens with all my contacts, my patients, and all of that. So that is really what is this is spiritualizing the daily life, having that perspective. But everybody is like kind of, oh, if I get a few bucks, I'll be very happy. So I do all sorts of things, and then go like that. So that's not it.
We're gonna still get a few bucks, man.
Yeah. No, you see, the thing is, are you craving for more money, or are you making money because you are, you are providing services and all of that? That is different compared to identifying those things will give us happiness. See?
Yeah, you know what? I'm realizing, my, with my time, and of course, got to know you through wisdom, and I'm looking back now as the past, right?
Yeah. I mean, you are a financial person. Okay, you are raised with that. That's okay. That's a conditioning too. So it's natural.
That's okay.
Yeah,
I
but
mean, I don't touch too much on me.
But your instinct tells you there's more to it. That's why you looked into it. That's why I maybe appeared as a teacher for you. But then you had that instinct, right? There's more to it than just this. With a relationship, with other things happening, you had a kind of need for awakening from what it is not to what it is has come to you. A lot of people may not even have the life experience, you see, then they are not open.
Yeah, the other day you talked about, servant leadership.
Yeah. I wrote a book. I completed a book.
Because I was thinking about that in my, as I was processing it. And I realized that, as entrepreneurs, right? Alignment and all of these things come into, like, what do we call a spiritual practice, right? It's kind of interesting how it comes together in that part, right?
Yeah. The Western concept of ego and profits has led to so much problem with the world and people and all the stress, right? The suffering, so much suffering. So I could see that very clearly, and so I knew servant leaders of those. They had experience of this. They were who is called Janaka in ancient wisdom, right? And this man, an administrator, and also a wonderful king, and he has enormous wealth, but he did not accumulate that for himself. And he was like a very deep. Kind of insight provider, like actually, because he had gone into himself and found himself, and he is completely content and happy with himself. So he doesn't have to do anything for him, right? So he does whatever he does in his life for his people, for all the people that are depending on him. So uh, he, to him, one of the teachers of the time, very famous teacher, he sends his son to be tested by this king. You know, what he does, he because he knows about this stable wisdom, stable mind, and all that, right? So when the guy comes, he makes him wait for several hours without any reason, just to provoke him, see whether he will provoke or not. But this guy is so together, he stays and waits because his father told him to go and talk to him. And this man is asking him to wait so that he will talk to him. And he waits. And after several hours, he breaks. And then he's very calm. He doesn't allow this irritation, impatience. Remember what is happening in the modern time. You can't wait for a few seconds, right? And then he goes in. Then as a test, what he does is he fills a pot with a round pot, with completely with milk. It almost it at the top. If you do this much, that much, the milk will come out. And then there is so much dancing, singing, so many things going on the big corridor that king has, right? And he tells him, okay, take this pot with the full milk. Your task is to go around this big hall without spilling in a drop. You know, that is the test for him. And this man, this young man actually, he becomes very famous later on. He kind of takes that and puts it on his head, and he doesn't complain. He doesn't say, how can I take it? Nothing, right? He just goes about it. And then he is so steady in his mind, he doesn't have any movement of the body when he is doing that, right? And takes it around and then comes out without spilling in one drop. That is when you have sthita prajna. Sthita prajna is established in your wisdom. Information doesn't give you that. Accumulation of more information doesn't give you that. That's what all the book reading and all of that, your own inner experience gives that. I think I told you something very significant today, Sanya.
I will have to review this thing from the beginning.
Yeah. See, that is the thing. Again, don't look the information. Look at what is happening within you.
Yeah. This is what I'm
now.
doing now. That it's all in terms of the experience. Right?
Yeah. You know what? J. Krishnamurti would not allow a girl to record and do anything. He said, experience it, do everything with me. And then at the end of that, he says, once you understood what it is yours, then go and write out whatever you want to find. But then when you are experiencing with me, when you're exploring with me, do that.
Yeah, I love that. Now I understand attention.
Yeah, that's it. You be attentive. Whatever you are doing, you be attentive. So this is what I say, right, all the time. I was writing the book this afternoon, 3 hours I was on that. And I kind of got all my experiences, everything, what happened. I wrote separate paragraphs for that. And then that's very, very nicely done, So I was completely attentive. Actually, I was joyous as I was writing because all these things have come into me, I didn't forget any of that. But I don't dwell on them daily. But when I wanted it, they came, right? And then that's it. Again, I forgot I'm talking to you. We're talking about something more important, probably. So that's the way to look. What attend to, pay attention to every action, everything that you do. And then, like, for example, you can break down those actions, like a series of actions involve about chewing the food, right? You have to pick up the food, put it in your mouth, close the mouth, and then chew the food and all that, right? So all those small actions, so you be aware. But usually what happens, they'll be thinking and then talking and then eating, That's no for a eating business. But how many people are really attentive when they're eating? They may pay attention to the taste, they may savor that, but then lots of lunches that I attended with these people, bankers, other people, they come to me and they take me to lunch because they want to provide that and this and all that. So I really had a very good time with the financial thing with all these people, right? My accountant comes to my office, my banker comes to my office, a lawyer comes, everybody comes, and that's the advantage of being in a small town, and you are the a really big shot like at that time. So when I'm talking and other, usually they finish off pretty quickly. But I'm kind of trying to eat one bit at a time and chew it and do that. And while they're talking, I'll listen, and then in between I may ask them questions and all that. But a lot of when they say, eating lunch with you, quite experienced, Dr. Rao. I said, why? Because I was forced to slow down. I was forced to think less, and that was relaxing for them. You know, my friends, we had a very good friendships. But then, when we meet, usually it's about them, what's going on with their life, what is happening, and all. In between, we may do some business, but otherwise, somebody tells me the cancer his wife had, or somebody tells me his kids are going to the college, what's going on, something like that. But my attention is always there for them. And then because I listen and while I'm eating food and all that, they are happy with that. So, and that they always shy away eating meat in front of me because I always order a vegetable plate. I don't object to them eating meat, but they felt shy, and then after a while they started to order the vegetable plate themselves too.
That's nice. So the awareness comes into.
Yeah. They asked me what was the reason for the vegetarianism, and then sure they got a lecture. They asked for it, right? So I had to speak it to them about what it is, why I took this one, and they were very surprised at the statistics I showed them, how the vegetarian people are much stronger, and then they fight the disease much better, and all those statistics are there. So it's very surprising to them because they always thought protein means only animal protein, right? But actually, human beings are not made for animal protein. They are made for the vegetable protein. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, it was hard for me to initially, get away from, meats and stuff like that.
There is a secret here, Sanya. Spiritual truths are so subtle. Spiritual inquiry is so subtle and deep. Unless you have no toxins from the food, it's going to be very difficult. That's why people who eat sattvic diet, which is really not having the diet that can raise your thoughts, or the diets that will slow down your thought and you become very lethargic. You should not have lethargy or excess running of thought. You have to be balanced. And then you can explore these in any culture. That's the same thing. Yeah. But they wrote a science on that food, and there's characters in India that's called Ayurvedic text, right? And they talk about not just the foods, but also what the foods can do to you, inner energy and certainties, and thereby your self-knowledge will be better when you use certain kinds of food that are available to you. And then they identified so many things. So they used food and some of the natural products as medicines. And lots of times people went to the subtleties of human being and they use that conscious energies. So it's a very deep science, and that's why I'm very surprised when I see all those evidence of thousands of years people really doing good health, and West is not picking it up that much. Some people, not all of them, but some people pick it up, but most of the time they don't have any idea about it. this stupidity comes, like we are the superior race, we know everything, So I just say it's too sad to do that. That's why there are so many chronic diseases in the country that really don't, once you have this disease set in, they kind of march towards the end. They suffer all these years. They get admitted nursing home or whatever, right? And the lifestyle itself doesn't have any any idea about how much the lifestyles are causing this morbidity and mortality. Morbidity is where the body is diseased and has all the side effects from each organ, and mortality is where the body is ceasing to function, dies, right? So both these things are morbidity, especially in so many chronic diseases. People have the diagnosis, take the medication for the symptoms, but underlying they're walking around with a lot of disease. That's why I kind of wrote about go to the disease origins and work on them. Then you won't have the need to take the medications because you are controlling your disease that way. I am an example like that. I don't have any medications, right? I tell people all the time, but they don't have the inquisitiveness that they want to find out and then implement them in their life. If they do it, that will be good. So consciousness-based or awareness-based sciences are ancient sciences. They look inward, internal. Whereas physical sciences, external things, modern medicine is very good. The chemistry, physics, and all those things. But what is inward, you cannot get from an outward book. Some information is all like that. That's why the ancients, what they did, they had a simple life outwardly. And then the purpose is to go inward, find out about inward. They think a lot of things are there beyond thought. And that is where modern civilizations took a bad turn, thinking only information will get everything. It's a pretty different thing. It's not outward, it's an inward thing. Outward thing, all the sciences, everything that we did, it makes us more comfortable, more protective, and they're all pretty good. Nobody denies. But then the same approach, you cannot take it for the inward self-awareness. Anyway, I think it is it has to sink in and it has to be experienced by you. So hopefully you'll do that.
Yeah, it does. I just aware that everything our senses touch is recording.
Yeah.
And this is why sometimes my retrieval is slower. Like in terms of understanding.
Yeah. That takes time.
The knowledge is there, right? Yeah. I mean, like the things that I record with you here, right?
Yeah. It's a kind of you may hear the words, but what you have to do is you have to experience that insight out of that. You see? Not because I said so, but because you have understood what is involved in this, what is they talking about. So if you don't understand it, question it. Take the information, question it. You can go and listen to it, that's fine. But then stop and say, what is he saying? Does it make sense? What is it? Then the questions come. That's why I always did not give you like a lecture. I told you, ask me questions. What is that you want to know? That way, it becomes your property when you question. Yeah. Anyway, we have to work on the body. That we do. We have to work on the breathing. We have to the present.
Yeah.
But when you ask your questions only, I went into the depth a little bit. Not even now. I'm just touching the superficiality of it. It's not really a deep thing, So,
yeah. Sounds great. Yeah. So. Okay. 33 days
already. Yeah. I told you, if I promise something, I will do it. 40 days. Yeah. I said that's in ancient times they were using this mandala in so many ways. Okay, mandala means 40 days. So I was using that. But I'm glad people have come, and I don't know whether anybody listened or stayed or whatever. but I have recorded it. If anybody wants to listen, they can come and listen to it, Okay, Sanya, we'll meet again tomorrow. Okay?
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dr. Rao. Have a good night.
You
Bye.
too. Bye. Okay, everybody on the Wisdom app, thanks for joining me, listening to me. Bye. Okay.